So, there is one more class of systems that we need to see before we conclude on this modeling aspect. So, you know how to do a continuous system, continuous linear, continuous nonlinear, continuous time varying, all those things you will be able to handle. This class of system called the switched power systems means that there is a switch somewhere where the power is switched, power flow is switched. It could happen in any domain. So, wherever there are valves. So, if you take for example, the reciprocating pump, the valves are operating during the forward stroke, suction stroke. Okay. In the case of the power electronics, you have the converters, various DC-DC converters, DC-AC converters, all are based on the operation of switches. Okay. So, those kind of systems called the switched power system has some speciality, and that is what we will look at and see how we go about get the model for that using the bond graph and the methods that we have discussed till now. Okay. So, I will take a very simple example without complicating, but the procedure that we will go through is valid for whatever may be the degree of complexity. This is simple, all of you know how this operates. This is a buck converter, you recognize. So, there is an input voltage here. There are two switches. One is a controlled switch Q, BJT, it could be a MOSFET, it could be a IGBT, and an uncontrolled switch, a diode, followed by a filter L and C and R. And we will operate the drive for the switch Q in this fashion, so that when you have the pulse, this is on, this is off, it will be charging up the inductance and the capacitance. And when the Q is off, inductor will be freewheeling through the diode. So, this is the basic operation of your buck converter. Now, let me put the what I will call, I'll just put some diagram here. We will call this as the bond graph for this. I will say right. I can put the bond graph in this fashion. You see that there is a series, then the whole packaged block there, one port. So, in series I am having a impedance RQ. This RQ need not be a constant, could be a varying, time varying R. Then you get the node, therefore RD. RD is parallel with another block, which when you go through the block, you have a series L, then goes through the last block, which is having two components in parallel, C and R. Now, this appears to be the bond graph for this. Okay. And let us place the causality, causal bar. First, we will do the source, next dynamic elements. Okay. So, I need to have a causal bar which will result in integral operation, integral causality for both the dynamic components. Then I will flow through into the junction. So, if I start from this, the voltage decider or the effort decider is this bond, and therefore, at the junction all else should be away. There can be only one at the junction. Here the flow decider is this bond. So, in the case of the one junction, only one bond should have a causal bar away from the junction, and what about this here? What about these two? These two bonds are left here, and then there is the junction, right? I will use a different color for that. Should I have it like that and this? If I use this as the flow effort decider for this junction, okay, then what should be the causality for this? This one junction, there can be only one bond without a causal bar at the junction. So, it has to be this, isn't it? Looks to fit in, okay, but it is not actually the right way. Let us say so, the ones marked green are still hanging in balance, just for explanation. Now, let us say this is RQ is on, RQ is 0 resistance. Then you have whatever effort decided by this, so VI decided by this comes to this point, okay. This is having negligible drop. Now, this is deciding the effort for the junction, fine, no problem. Now, you switch off this fellow, it goes infinite. What is deciding the flow here? Neither this nor this, but the flow is getting decided. This is deciding the flow here, which is deciding the flow here, and which is deciding the flow here. So, this drop is actually IL into RQ. So, when that goes off, the IL into RQ, which is again a very high infinite value, undefined value. So, you will start landing up with undefined values. Then what is the decision on the effort here? If I take that this is the correct way of writing the bond and this has switched off. When it is switched on, this is 0, okay. Vi comes in here directly, sigma Vi. If you take sigma E is equal to 0 for this one junction effort law, this is 0, this is Vi, Vi will come in here. Or if there is some non-ideality you want to take, there will be a small drop here, Vi minus this will come in here, right. But when this goes off suddenly, switches off, and then this becomes an infinite value of impedance, resistance, and it is still the same IL, which is actually deciding factor for the flow here, because here there is no switching here happening, right. So, IL into RQ, it will become a very large value. This will be a very large value. What you will get here is a negative value, which is not how it happens. So, when this switches off, we see that this is freewheeling in this fashion, which means that this is contributing 0. This is contributing a 0 drop. Now, this drop is also deciding the node voltage here. If you see actually in that circuit, when this is off, who is deciding the node voltage here? It is because of the conduction of this switch. So, there is that effect coming to the picture in the sense that what is the effort decider for this junction? At that time it is this, and the bond that we have written, it just says that this is a flow decider. It decides the flow for this, right. So, let us just reframe this in this fashion. Can I put like that? Can I have a situation where you are having a 0 junction, there is one bond with a causal bar at the junction, there is another bar which is having a causal bar at this junction. You should remember that at the 0 junction, no two bonds can decide the effort. However, the moment you see something like this, should trigger something in your mind. It is like having two sources, two effort deciders trying to decide that node voltage. However, can they decide the node voltage at different mutually exclusive points in time? So, let us say at some period in time, this is deciding, this bond is deciding the effort for this junction. At that time, this is not deciding, this is not in the picture. At some other mutually exclusive interval of time, this is deciding the effort for this, but this should not be in the picture. Both cannot happen together. So, an extension or a generalization of the regular 0 and 1 junction would be the switched power junction. We will call this as switched 0 junction. So, in the case of the switched 0 junction, if I write it like that, I will put it this way. So, I could have E1, E2, En deciding the efforts at the junction at U1, U2, Un mutually exclusive intervals of time. U1, U2, Un are mutually exclusive intervals, where if I write the time scale U1, U2, U3, U1. So, what it means that during this, it is this bond which is active. All the other effort decider bonds are passive. The active effort decider, passive effort deciders which are not there in the picture. Okay. During U2, this becomes active, all others become passive. So on, during Un, this is the active effort decider for the 0 junction. Such a junction is called a switched power junction. So, whenever you see a junction having such multiple deciders, multiple effort deciders, such a 0 junction is a 0S junction or a switched power junction. Likewise, the dual, if I am having multiple flow deciders, you have F1, F2, Fn, Okay. This is the dual concept, where you have a switched one junction, where F1 decides the flow for this one junction during U1 interval of time. F2 decides the flow for the one junction during U2 interval of time. U2 is the second mutually exclusive interval like this, and U3 so on like this. So, this generalization of the junction is used for basically modeling the switch. So, depending upon how many switches are there, you will see so many modes. So, if I am having U1, U2, UN, you will have n such modes of operation. So, you split them and then draw the bond graphs for each, and then you combine them later on to obtain the model. So, let us go through that step. So, what we will do here is, during DTS you have some circuit coming into the picture. It is something like this. So, you see that the switch Q is on. So, I have just replaced it with a piece of conductor, and when that is on, D is out of the picture, D is off. Okay. In fact, here you can introduce any of the non-idealities of switch Q. Could have the just a simple impedance, say a resistance there to indicate the on resistance of the Q, or you could have Q with capacitance, okay. Or you could replace it with a macro model, like this could have see some of the macro models. This is an active switch. This is the switch, switch terminals Q. So, this will be some small impedance. Let us say this is the switching impedance. Something like that. This is a macro model, because any switch you just do not replace it by a single resistor, or you do not replace it by two resistors, because you see that there is going to be a causality issue. You cannot just have an attenuator kind of a model there. Now, see here, let us say that the switch is on. Okay, this is high value. Assume that this is of the order of mega. This is the order of very small. This is actually switched through your duty cycle. So, when the switch is on, this is not actually modulated, only this is modulated. This will, that is, if you want to simulate it, I am saying, this will go from, let us say, 0 to 1 meg. So, when it is on, it will take the value 0, okay. And when it is off, it will take a value 1 meg, let us say, and this capacitor here actually will withstand the complete entire voltage of the sigma E there. Okay, sigma E of this one junction, if I have to write this would look something like this. right? This is interposed there instead of the Q. Non-idealities of the Q I can incorporate in this fashion. And when, let us say when this is off, okay, you still have the inductor current flowing, this will charge up, because this will charge up to the point where sigma E is equal to 0. Okay. So, automatically Vi and this will come to Vi, so that this becomes 0. It cannot charge more than that, these two being passive. So, this would in fact make it like a model of a switch. In fact, many of the macro models of switches, they use this resistance and capacitance. Even probably in sim power systems, the model of the switch is not based on the characteristic of the switch, but on the resistance and the capacitance values. So, anyway, that non-idealities can come in here, but for now I am taking it as a direct short. Okay. You can put it as like the base emitter junction, you have a 0.7. So, you could have an active source there 0.7 volts, and then the impedances HIE, in terms of the HIE, HFE, all those things can come in there as a combined block for giving you a much better result later on if you want to take the details of Q and details of D. But many of the cases you will not need it, because that dimension will be very small, insignificant compared to the overall system. And anyway, when you are taking the second order terms going off in the case of the deviations about the neighborhood of the operating point, all that also will vanish, and it will be a better model if you take it simple. Okay. Unless you want to study the non-idealities specifically at one particular operating point. So, this is the model that will result, a simple model, and the bond graph for this you can draw. And during this time, during 1 minus dt time, you have this model where this is off and D is dictating the node potential here. So, let us draw the bond graph for each of this. So, this is nothing but a very simple one junction with L attached to that, and attached to this you have another 0 junction C and R. Okay, this is a simple this one. Causality, go from source causality, then the dynamic elements, integral causal, dynamic element C, integral causal again, and once that is clear, you can flow through on both directions. So, that all will fit in there. Now, Vi is the input variable, IL will be the state variable, another state variable will be Vc across. Now, these are the variables that you can use for making or building the state equation. Likewise, you have to do for this also. So, the bond graph for that is exactly similar, except for this node potential, which is 0. So, I am having a 0. Remember, now you see that this is equivalent to saying that I am having this. It is like saying that I am having a switched junction okay. I am having a switched junction as though like this, SE1, SE2, where I am feeding Vi for dt s time, and I am feeding 0 during 1 minus d Ts time. This is your U1, this is U2, where the time scale, the U1, U2, this is nothing but dTs 1 minus d Ts, mutually exclusive interval of time. During the dTs period of time, SE1 is the active bond, active effort decider for this switched junction, and SE2 is the active effort decider for this switched junction during 1 minus DTS, which is resulting in the two separate bond graphs. So, this is the switched junction. You can leave it at that, but when you want to go further and finally arrive at the state equations, you need to split them and then finally we will be combining them also again. Okay. We need to get a single state equation. So, you get the concept. Whenever there is switched junctions, you will see that the decider bonds, either the flow decider or the effort decider, depending upon whether it is a 1s junction or a 0s junction, whether the 1 junction is switched or 0 junction is switched, will result in mutually exclusive units of the circuits or mutually exclusive units of the system. Draw the bond graph separately for each during each of the mutually exclusive intervals of time. Okay. Then we will see how we combine them. Is that clear? First step is to mutually split the modes of operation. So, now let us see the large signal model that we know how to do. So, during DTS, this is the model for the system, and during 1 minus DTS, this is the model. Only difference in this particular case is VIN 0. Not necessary that it should be 0, it could be something else also. So, if I take this particular 1 junction, this is the decider bond. So, I need to find this effort. This effort is nothing but Vi minus Vc. This is a 0 junction. So, all these are having same effort Vc. This is Vi minus Vc, which will be this effort. Fine. Now, if we take the other C, you need to find this effort in this flow. So, that integral of that will give you this effort. This flow is this flow minus this flow. Look at the half arrow directions into the junction to decide your plus and minuses. Okay. This being a 1 junction, this is IL having a flow IL, all have flow IL. So, the IL minus this is Vc by R naught. Use only the variables as shown here, the state variables and input variables, do not use any extra. So, this can be IL minus Vc by R naught will give you CVC. So, these are the two state variables as state equations as far as this particular bond graph for the period DTS is concerned. Now, this also similarly same thing, except that here it is 0 instead of Vi it is 0. So, 0 minus Vc, and the other equation is also identical, IL minus Vc by R naught. So, these are the two equations, and if you put them into the matrix form, you will see that this is the matrix equation in the form of x dot is equal to Ax plus Bu. This is x dot, A x vector, state vector, B matrix and U vector. Okay. Likewise, for this, only difference here you will see is here in the B vector. In the B matrix, you have 1 by L in this case, here it is 0 because of this. Okay. So, we will give some nomenclature here. The state equation obtained for mode 1 is x dot is equal to A1x plus B1u. So, this is A1, this is B1. The nomenclature for this is mode 2, okay, A2x plus B2u. So, A1 and A2 can be different. In this case, it turns out to be same, but in a general sense, A1 and A2 need not be same. Okay. And likewise, B1 and B2 will also not be same because the modes are different. So, this is a generic structure, x dot is equal to A1x plus B1u, x dot is equal to a to x plus b to u. So, this is what you will result. If I am having n such intervals, I will have x dot is equal to a n x plus b n u. So many mutually exclusive state equations will come to you. So, how do you now combine them? So, let us look at this averaged large signal approximation. In the case of our normal continuous case, from the large signal, what do we do if we land up in a non-linear or time varying case? We use the linearizing approach, right? So, in the continuous signal case, so you have the continuous power system and the switched power system. So, in both the cases, we will first obtain the large signal. Here also you will do the same exercise. Only it is for every mutually Next, what do we do here? If it is a linear system, we stop there. If you are able to put them into the state equation, a regular state equation form of x dot is equal to ax plus bu, you will stop there. But if you are having time varying and nonlinear terms coming into the picture, then you will do the process of linearization. Where you will try to extract steady state and the small signal model from that. Right. Now, here one intermediate step will come into the picture, and that is averaged large signal. I will tell you what that is. After you do the average large signal, you will go through the process of linearization and then extract it from here, the steady state model and the small signal model. Okay. So, you will have one extra model coming into the picture in the switched power systems as against the continuous power systems. Let us see what that averaged large signal approximation is. This is needed for combining the various, see you have split the modes into n modes, right, n mutually exclusive modes. Now, they are all separate bond graphs, they are all separate models, state equations, but what is the relationship between all this? We will have to combine them into one single model at every time interval, right, it has to get combined. So, that process is called the averaging, and that is called the average large signal approximation. Let us see that one. So, let me take here a plot. On the x axis you have time axis, on the y axis you have x some state variable. It could be current, it could be voltage, whatever, some state variable. Let us say, for example, in this present case we have inductor current, let us say inductor current, and let us see how it looks like. It looks something approximately like this. You have this buck converter, we know how the inductor current is going to be, right? It rises, falls down like that. So, this is a carrier frequency period Ts. Now, this period Ts is now split into two mutually exclusive parts, okay, dTs and 1 minus dTs. Now, this is the part during dTs, this is the time when the Q is on, okay. Now, if I take this, the area under that part, this is the area under that part, okay, and the areas under that part, every carrier period, every Ts period we take, okay. Now, let us take the average of this for this period Ts alone, for this carrier period Ts alone. So, let us say somewhere it comes like that, okay. Now, this is varying. Now, let us say this were equivalent to a rectangle. So, somewhere here there is a rectangle, okay. This is a rectangle of equivalent area, okay. So, I will take that one as my y intercept for this particular area. So, it is approximately equal to x dot d, whatever that x is, whatever that x top flat top is, okay. X into d, this is d, right, is the average for that carrier interval. Likewise, you have the 1 minus d part, okay, and it has an average, okay, that portion, and that is x into 1 minus d. So, this is that approximation. So, when you say large signal approximation, so when I add up these two will result in some flat top value in that this one, which represents xd plus x into 1 minus d, let us say, equivalently. So, every carrier interval is having some flat top value, okay. All these will have flat tops. Now, this is the large signal approximation, okay, and called the averaged large signal, okay. This large signal approximation, this is the actual, okay. You are not actually taking the average of the entire signal, this is the average of the carrier duration only, carrier period duration only. Still, you do not lose out on the dynamics, you will see the dynamics. So, if there is an overshoot here, you will see that only the carrier duration is made flat topped, okay. You get the point. You still do not lose the dynamics, only the, because even many of your approximations you will say let the ripple be negligible, and then you will do the design and analysis. Okay, what here you are doing is you are taking that within that carrier, that ripple is made flat, okay, that is the flat top value, but carrier to carrier, carrier period to carrier period, you will see the variations and flat topped variations, okay. So, this is called the large signal approximation, the yellow shaped, the yellow flat top shaped curve. The white curve is the actual large signal. Is that clear? So, this is what we will be using for finally trying to get our deviations about the state equation. So, this is the average large signal, and we had this during this dt period, during this green shaded area period, we had this as the dictative constitutive relationship x dot which is equal to a1x plus b1 u, and during this blue shaded region the dictating constitutive relationship is x dot is equal to 2x plus b2u. So, these two need to be combined. So, how you combine it is basically to use this. So, xd, take the d into the A1, okay, 1 minus dx. So, 1 minus d is also taken into the corresponding A matrix. So, you have A1d plus A2 1 minus d, B1d plus B2 1 minus d for the u. Now, this is the manner in which we will combine the various n mutually exclusive units. Okay. So, this will result in some value A, equivalent A. This will result in an equivalent B, which will give you x dot is equal to this equivalent A x plus equivalent B u, which will be the averaged large signal model. So, this model is called the average large signal model. This is an intermediate step which will come in all switched power system.
How did we convert that expression?
Which one?
The final expression.
It's coming from here, no? So, you are using this.
You are saying we are flat topping the region.
Yes. So, that is the approximation.
How do the equation and the graph correlate?
Means? So, now the state is this flat top.
Yeah.
Okay. The state becomes this flat top itself here. Okay. You are assuming that during that carrier period you are sampled and held. Okay. So, that is the approximation, but in actuality you will see that the actual large signal is this, and the this is of course a approximation to the actual large signal. Otherwise, you will not be able to obtain the deviations in this sense, okay, in this flat top sense. Okay. It is still better than having a total average. Okay. If I put a big filter, let us say, and average it out, but I will lose out on all these dynamics. I will lose out on these dynamics, this increasing, decreasing and overshoots, all those dynamics you will lose out. So, this is something that you are doing a conscious engineering judgment on this particular thing. Okay. So, that is why we still call it as an approximation. It is not exactly instant by instant same as the large signal, but for the purposes of model and control you are using it.
So, sir, in that you have shown that x gets modulated xd plus x times 1 minus d. So, if I actually try to put it in here, so only that state variable should get that expression. Why is that?
The state variable I still retain what is measurable. See, ultimately in my controls I cannot make a how will I get flat topped variables? I will not be able to get flat topped variables. What is available to you finally is only the measurable state variables, which is the actual large signal state variable. Okay. So, I should push all these d's and 1 minus d into the parameter matrix, okay, and not disturb the state variable. State variable you still retain it as the same. If it is the inductor current, the same large signal value of the inductor current, same in the case of the input also. Okay. What you are trying to do is trying to push it elsewhere, and that still has to go through a process for you to get the linear system. Again, understand that this is only an approximation. This is this will only lead you to get a reasonable control design as against not having a control design. Okay. So, if you do not do the approximation and you are having two large signal values, it is total trial and error. When you do it this one with this kind of an approximation, you get at least a reasonable measure of control on the performance and the control input. Okay. So, it is you have to view it in that kind of a context, where either you have an absence of a model and without the model it is trial and error, or you have an approximate model and I try to go in a logical manner for building the controller. Okay. But this x here, I cannot have another x which is representing this. Internally I will represent this, but when I am measuring, I have to measure it with respect to the actual X only, actual inductor current only. Okay, so that is where the approximation comes in, and we want to push the approximation inside. I could take this as the approximate value of the state together, okay, but I will not be able to feed back the signals. I will not be able to sense and feedback. So all these factors you try to take it inside and further process it, because we are anyway now going to do a process of linearization. So there again it will get further approximated, because you will again remove the second order terms and things like that. Okay. This is an approximation, view it as such, but it is a valid approximation in most cases because your carrier signals are high.
So then also if we have like this output equation y is equal to, in this case it would be C1x, and here if I take output as V0,
Y won't change, Y still will be the same, because I will
like C1d plus C2.
no that one, yes, there also it will, if you, so if I am having x dot is equal to A1x plus B1u, x dot is equal to A2x plus B2u. It is valid for all, even if you are taking y is equal to C1x plus D1u, y is equal to C2x during that intervals, okay, plus D2u. So this is a mutually exclusive set, state equation, output equation, state equation, output equation. Okay, so that is still valid. So you will get x dot is equal to A1d plus A21 minus d. This is the average large signal approximation plus B1d plus B21 minus d, average large signal approximation, the state equation, C1d plus C21 minus d, x 1 minus d. Okay. So the entire each set, each interval is having its own state equation and output equation U1. So this is a method of combining, okay, linear combination like this, and we know separately these two values here, the state equations, individual state equations. Okay. So this is A1, B1, A2, B2, and we have combined it like this. What will result combining these two is, this is the resultant equation. In this case, because A1 was same as A2, A1d plus A21 minus d is the same value. Okay. But whereas in the case of the B1 is different from B2, so B1d, so you have d by L, because this is 0 and 0, this does not reflect. So the only change you will see is here in this case. Okay. Now here if you see, d is time varying, right? D is not constant, D is not fixed. Of course here also you could have time varying values when you are doing other systems, but in this specific case of the buck converter, this happens to be time invariant, but keep in mind that this can also be time varying. So here this is a time varying matrix, we will have to we have to take care of that. The next process is, from here you start the linearization. Okay. Linearization you know already how to do. So you start from here. What is the process? You replace every variable by two components. One is the steady state or the nominal operating point component, and another one is the deviations above the nominal operating point. So, you do the same process for all the state variables IL, Vc, Vi and D. D also, because D is a variable here and that variable is coming within the parameter matrix, and this time varying component you cannot have it here. Then remove the second order deviation terms after you do the simplification. So, you take for example here, this will be D plus D hat, V plus Vi hat. Okay. So, you will have 4 terms, uppercase D, uppercase Vi, lowercase d hat, uppercase Vi, Vi hat, uppercase D, and then lower cases, which is Di hat, Vi hat. So, Di hat, Vi hat term you will remove, you will not use it. So, that we saw in the last example how we do that. The linearized, during the process of linearization, when you expand them, so I have this expansion, every variable I have substituted that. Okay. For every variable I have substituted this. So, here you have actually the steady state terms derivative, the deviation terms derivative. So, first take the steady state terms. Okay, these are the steady state terms, all are upper cases, and this is another steady state term. So, these are the steady state terms, and that you can call it as the steady state matrix, and that derivation will be 0. Okay, so, these terms will vanish, these terms will also vanish. So, what you will be left with is the blue terms here. Okay. Now, there is a D hat term and a Vi term, okay, which will go along with this, right. So, this is your small signal model blue, this orange red ones are the steady state model. So, this is the small signal model, and if I split them, steady state model is like this. Will you use the steady state model anywhere? Where? Reference feed forward. So, if you now imagine the control structure, the feed forward terms and generation of the reference, you can use this. In fact, this, if you take the first equation, the first line, okay, Vc by L minus dVi by L. So, that will lead to Vc is equal to dVi, which we know for the buck converter. The steady state component will give you the voltage relationships and current relationships. So, this will give you the steady state input output relationship, which you will use for feed forward terms in your control topology. Okay. Small signal model you will use for your K controller design in your controller topology. So, this is a small signal model. I have split the two inputs as the control input. This is the control input portion. D hat is the control input. Vi hat is, what is Vi hat? It's a disturbance input. It's a disturbance, you have no say in it, nothing much you can do about that. You have say only in this, the control input. So, this control input is what is actually you will be designing for. So, this would be the small signal model which you will actually use for designing the value of K, the controller. Okay. Yeah, I will stop at this point and continue from here. So, we have almost come to the end of our modeling. The output of that is what we will next further use it for further processing and how we go about designing the controller. Okay.